So you want to end up with the biggest stack of cash out of all of your investment friends, but it all boils down to knowing your numbers and getting them right the first time. This is how I do it. Let's dive into it.
Welcome to the Smack Fest, the beat down. The SWAT team is here on another beautiful day of shutting the week down.
And if we're meeting for the very first time, my name is Dauria. I am a professional real estate investor. I invest solely for passive income and have been an entrepreneur for most of my life. I became financially free at age 32 years old, and I want to show you not only how I did it, but how you can replicate it and do the same. So let's say you find a house and it's $150,000 or $300,000 and you think it might make the best investment property for you, but you don't know what's next. Okay, so I walk in, I see some repairs. How do I know how much this stuff is gonna cost me? Well, follow me. All right, guys, so in every investment property I walk into, I'm looking at something like this. Now, this isn't like, this is what you need to do every single time. This is like a down and dirty. It took me like 5 minutes to write this up, right? And it's basically the basics that you need to know because every single house is gonna need that little extra attention here or there. But for the most part, we're gonna start with the big ones. Here we go. So when you walk in and you look at the flooring, if the flooring is trashed, guys, I personally budget about $5 per square foot for flooring for what's called vinyl flooring. Now, it's not laminate, it's vinyl, it's waterproof, it's life-proof. Now, if you want to go tile, it's going to be more expensive than that. If you want to go carpet, it's going to be cheaper than that. But what I typically do is I like to be able to do something like a one and done. I like to get in there, do it right the first time, and not have to come back for like a decade, basically, or longer, okay? So paint, so you want to check in your local area to see kind of what like painters are running about, but I typically budget about $3 per square foot. So if you got a 2,000 square foot house and the whole thing needs to be painted, give or take $6,000. Now it could be substantially less, it could be quite a bit more. It depends on how much trim out you have and stuff like that. But these are real ballpark figures. And I always, okay, this is very important. Always round up, because if your flooring ends up being less and your paint ends up being less and less, and all of a sudden you get into something that is like, oh my gosh, the AC is actually bad, or it just went bad on me, and that's $5,000. Well, you save $1,200 here, you save $1,500 there, you save $1,000 there. You see what I'm saying? Like, eventually you can say, hey, that was my emergency funds. I had to dip into them. I'm not going to be too much upside down, if any. And the goal is, when I buy a house, I want to go back to the bank and get 100% of my money back, so I don't leave any money in the property, or if I do leave money in the property, it's as little as possible, or at least to a number I'm comfortable with. Moving on to foundation. Guys, check this out. It's funny. When I very first started, I would literally walk into a house and I would grab a ping pong ball, right? And I would set it down and I would watch it. And I would take it over here and I would set it down and I would watch it, right? And come to find out, renters really don't care if the foundation is off by a little bit, guys. They just want a nice, clean, safe property to live in. If the foundation has a little bitty dip in a corner somewhere, I have houses that I know have a little bit of slight movement, and they've never said anything ever, and it's been years because they might not even notice it because I'm looking for it. They just want a bedroom. You kind of understand where I'm coming from? So basically what I'm saying is this. This is how I do it, okay? But I will physically, when I say walk the property, I physically mean walk the property. When you walk into a bedroom, you're going to actually look to see if you can see any issues that really stand out, like cracks in the walls that go like up and over, or in the brick on the outside that kind of do this. That's why I always walk the outside first. But when you walk in, literally do this. Walk into the bedroom, walk to the middle, and then walk back, walk into the corners, and walk all four corners, and use this to determine if there's anything funny with the floor, because the human brain can detect very slight, I mean, like it could be like an inch or a half inch, and you'll detect yourself going downhill or you'll detect yourself going uphill. And if there's a lot of carpet in the pads, sometimes there can be some cracks. I've seen some cracks that you can still trip on even though it's got carpet and pad and maybe something else, like the cracks were like that bad. So when you're walking, you're feeling on your feet, but you're also feeling to see if you feel weird or funny, kind of like you're in a fun house. Like I've walked into one house and I walked into the kitchen and I felt like I started to have to do this, like lean back just to stay up straight because the foundation was just sloping. Like the whole back of the house was like sloping in, right? Can it be fixed? Of course it can. If it was cheap enough, I could put it in the budget and make sense. But foundation can be very expensive. Basically, to budget foundation, this is how I do it, is they need to put basically a block underneath the foundation every 6 feet of the wall that's having an issue, maybe a little bit wider. So if I know that this room has got a dip and it's like here and here, I'll measure the whole wall there and back, and every 6 feet plus 1 or 2 maybe for, you know, just to go a little bit wider, is going to be in my area about $225 installed. So I know that every 6 feet is $225. If I've got 60 feet, I need 10 blocks underneath the foundation. 10 times 225 is $2,225 plus tax and other stuff. I just say $2,500. Heck, might as well just say $3,000, because once they start moving the foundation, next thing you know, you start getting cracks in the brick and in the interior walls that weren't there already or have been already patched, and now they're re-cracking because you moved the foundation a little bit. And if it's really bad, you can start buckling, which I have on the roof. The shingle is actually cringled, right? Cringled? I don't know if that's a word. It is now, okay? And I had to have a roofer go up there, and of course that was not something I was budgeting for because I was a newbie at the time. I didn't know, right? So foundation, guys, can be very expensive. Always get, if you can, like at auction, we can't. So I have to literally, like, while I'm standing on the front lawn, like, okay, this is how many I think it needs. This is what I'm about to bid kind of thing, because they'll give you like, hey, auction's in 15 minutes. Like, you can't get, you know, a foundation guy to even do like his job in 15 minutes. So basically, when you see something and it's dipping, every 6 feet, it's about $225 per 6 feet in my area. Check your area. Lighting and fixtures, guys. When I walk into some houses, I don't know why they built them like this, but some rooms don't have any lights. I mean, like, literally don't have any lighting at all. Like, the lighting, when you walk in there, like, they literally don't have lights. They have like a corner light for the lighting in there. So you basically put up what's called like pot lights, and it's like an LED light that goes like recessed into the ceiling, okay? Some people like to call them recessed lights. They're LED lighting. You can get them at Home Depot. They're pretty easy to install as long as there's, you know, wiring where they should be up there. But nevertheless, just contact an electrician. They can get out there. They can get the stuff installed. But lighting and fixtures can be expensive. If they're already there, you know that, hey, I can get a fan at Home Depot for $150. I have to pay an hour's labor to get it installed and wired per fan, so you can kind of figure out, but make sure you're always rounding up as you go. All right, next is plumbing fixtures. Guys, there are certain toilets out there you do not want. The cheapest ones are not the best ones. The most expensive ones are not the best ones. There are particular brands out there, and if I can find one, I'm going to post it down in the description below. Look for like, this is the toilet to buy. I'm going to do a little research. There is one out there that has like 0 faults for most landlords like ever, right? And it's just like an extra little bit more. Like, believe me, the amount of plumbing calls you're going to pay to fix a $100 toilet is worth it to just pay $225 for a toilet. You know what I mean? Like, just it's just for the headache or peace of mind to begin with. All right, so and this also includes like sinks and stuff. I just put a bid on a house. I think it was yesterday or a day before. I put a lot of bids, and everything's gold. You know, like, I don't want that. The house was built in 98. And it's just, you know, gold. Like, that's fixtures. I'm talking like the stuff you touch, the doorknobs, like all that's fixtures. So budget for it. I think I budgeted for like, just for the doorknobs and all, like $1,500 for this house. Like, that's way over, but I'd rather be over on everything, because believe me, you're not going to get into a scope of a project and be like, wow, that really came like super under budget all the time. You will get lucky occasionally, but most of the time it's going to be over budget for something. Like, something always happens, especially if you have to open up a wall. All right, so the next one is going to be countertops. It depends on what kind of countertops you need to put in your house, depending on what you're doing with it. If you're flipping it and you're in a relatively high-end area, you're going to want to put some like nice granite or something, you know, stone or something in there. That's going to be normal for that neighborhood, okay? Or if you just have like that Formalca, I think it's called, like just that real cheap like apartment stuff, right? It's like a plastic, right? You can leave that in a rental grade house. It's something that's like $1,100 a month. Like, people expect that for $1,100 a month. They don't expect granite and stainless steel. Great bonus if you got it, and it'll help it rent, but you don't have to go overboard because you're not going to get that back in rent necessarily. So countertops, depending on the scale of your property, whether it's an A property, a B, a C, or a D property, depends on how much money you want to put into countertops. So definitely look in your area and the comps. Look at sale comps in your neighborhood and look and see what price has what countertops. Like this one sold for $250, this one sold for $180. And look at the countertops. You'll probably see what I'm talking about. All right, so landscaping, okay, we're all human, okay? And when we pull up to a house, we want curb appeal. We want something that looks good. Not just as a landlord, but as a renter, we want to say, that's my house. I rent the house, that's my house, and I want to have some pride of ownership. The better curb appeal it has, the better pop, the more phone calls you're going to get, the more drive-bys you're going to, drive-by, people calling, hopefully, drive-bys you're going to get, the more people that are going to actually be interested in looking at this property just from the initial picture, because we all heard the first impressions is everything. Yeah, that kind of rings true as well when it comes to landscaping, and it can bring the biggest bang for your buck, especially when it comes time to rent, because the landscaping picture you took when you first got it done, as long as you're keeping up with it reasonably, you can use that picture for years in the future. Like I said, you can't like just do it once and never touch it again and still use those pictures. That's like putting lipstick on a pig. Okay, but all right, so water heater, look at the water heater, guys. You're looking at an easy $1,500 right there. You literally just open it up, look at the date. Is it about 10 years old, give or take? It's gonna need to be replaced. Either you wanna wait till it goes bad, or you just want to go ahead and replace it, especially if you got to open up any walls around there. Just go ahead and rip it out and redo it, or just get rid of the water heater completely. Therefore, you don't have to mess with pans, you don't have to worry about drainage. You just go tankless and you're done with it basically, right? You don't have to worry about leaks, because I bought a brand new car once and I had my water heater literally explode in my garage on my brand new car. My water heater was like 12 years old at the time. Like it blew out from the middle all over my brand, rust water all over my car. I was like, fantastic. So funny story. All right, so roof, when you look at a roof, guys, if it's a really small house, let's say 1,500 square foot, I personally budget, now check, I have a roofer. I personally budget about $5,000-6,000. I just call it $6,000 for a little roof. I like a 3-bedroom, typical house. I budget about $6,000. Now, you need to check in your area, guys. It could be quite a bit more. You could get maybe a little bit less, but check in your area. Just call a roofer and be like, hey, what's a typical 30-year shingle on a 1,500 square foot house usually run, like ballpark, right? And for just a real typical house, they'll tell you what kind of price you need to look at. You need to know kind of when you're getting into this, like what's average pricing per square foot or per, the square footage of the house, so you know what you're getting yourself into. You don't want to budget $3,000, it turned out to be 12. That's what I'm trying to have you avoid. All right, so AC units. This is a big one, guys, because every single house, it's going to be a different story in every single house. The house I put a bid in the other day, the AC units outside were only 8 years old. Not too bad, about midlife, maybe a little bit past midlife. But the inside units were original from 98. Yeah, they're still working, but I mean, like any day they're probably going to go out. So you need to check the inside units in the closet, actually open up, look at the dates on it, and then go on the outside. And on the outside condenser unit on the very back, if you can read it, I know it's hard to read sometimes, but there's a sticker on the back. It'll have a manufacture date. And, I like to round low. I like to say my ACs are good for 10 years. They usually go for longer, but some bite the dust earlier. So I usually say, if it's over 10 years old, expect it to start giving you some problems. Or if you're doing a rehab, especially a flip, go ahead and just replace it. But if you're just doing a buy and hold like I am, if it's working good, I'll let it run. But keep in mind, and don't be surprised if 90 days later, your AC bites the dust. And even if you can keep it working, sometimes every time the guy has to go out there, he's charging you $300 a pop, $300 a pop, $300, and you're having to send him out 3 or 4 times a year. You know what I mean? At that point, just replace it. Or, yeah, it needs a $1,500 part, and I'm like, well, I can buy the whole thing for like, $2,800, and it's like, it's already 15 years old. You kind of have to decide, do you want to pay for it now, you want to pay for it later kind of thing. All right, so electrical, you want to go to the fuse box. You want to open it up, you want to take a picture of it, and you want to talk to an electrician. You can even send him a picture, call him on the phone, hey, I'm looking at a property, I want to see if this box is up to current code. Send him a picture, and he'll be able to look at that box, typically over the phone, and be like, yeah, that one looks like it's up to code, or wow, what kind of property do you consider buying? That whole place is aluminum wiring. It's all going to need to be replaced. It could be $15,000. Like, you need to know what you're getting yourself into, because as a landlord, we have certain responsibilities to keep our tenants safe, and certain things have to be at certain code levels. Now, it can be out of code for the owner, but when you buy it and you take assumption of the property, you want to make sure that it's a safe, habitable properties for not only my peace of mind, for my tenants as well. All right, so here's a rule of thumb. Now, don't take this to heart. This is just kind of what I base my stuff off of, is if it's a really light renovation, $10 per square foot. If it's a medium renovation, $20 per square foot. If it's a heavy renovation, $30 per square foot. Now, keep this in mind that renovation costs can vary between $10 a square foot and $60 a square foot if it's extraordinarily heavy, and it needs to be brought up to really nice standards because it's that kind of a neighborhood or that kind of a house. So my renovations are typically the light or medium. I've done a heavy renovation. It was actually one of my very first properties. It was a great experience, and I went over budget quite a bit. But light renovation, medium, I really am like beaten up between the light and the medium, right in between. Like that's like, the property you want to look for is typically like grandma's house. It's a perfect example. Walk in there and be like, okay, it needs quite a bit of cosmetic updates, but like the bones are straight, structurally it's good. It's an outdated house. It's not necessarily an ugly house, but it's just an outdated house, like gold everywhere and wallpaper and that's the kind of house that is a really easy house to mess with, versus walking in and basically just taking the place down to the sticks and building it back up, guys. All right, I don't want to make this video any longer. I hope that this helps you guys when you guys go into properties. If you have not taken notes, go back, start over, and literally take notes as I'm going so you guys know when you walk in about the cost per item here. On the ACs, basically, I budget, by the way, I budget about $5,000 to $6,000 per unit. So if it's a two-story, I budget between $10,000 and $12,000 for an entire AC unit. Okay, that's inside and out. You usually do them at the same time is normal. Usually when one goes out, the other one's about to go out anyways. Just do them at the same time. It'll save you some headache. Believe me, I've been there. And guys, if you're new to the channel, thank you so much for making it all the way through. I make videos several times per week all about entrepreneurship and investing in real estate for passive income like myself. Consider smashing that like button. Let me know if you guys have any comments below. I want to answer them directly. And until next time, I'll see you on the next one.